So let's take a look at Cisco Extended Inventory. As I double click that report, so this is where you can see kind of browse the data available to you, and the search is very handy because if I wanted the IP address, I could search for it in this box, find it, and then populate it in. If I believe this report already had the device IP as a field. So just getting back to a few of the basics up on top, you name it. I think it's very handy to add a description, and then you have the option of orientating the report to be column-based or row-based. Generally, if you don't specify this, the row will be each device. So you'll have a unique device on each line, and then all the data will be column-oriented. Where it makes sense to do row orientation is, let's say you want a device, but then you want a row per, let's say, port, or a row per license, or some other corresponding thing where you can have a lot of elements tied to one physical device. The layer 2 port status is a good example of, you'll see all the ports associated, by a row under one particular switch. I could deem a report the default for the applications like Device Manager, Drift and Audit, or OS Manager. That's where you would indicate that with these checkboxes. You also have the ability to share within your org. So if this is private, when I navigate in, or others are, Gluware is a multi-user system. If it's private, others won't see this. If I make it public, others can see it, and I can even make it available into sub-organizations. So Gluware is hierarchical in the way that you can create your organizations and you can make those available. As well, as I mentioned, you can export. If, let's say I create this as a private report, I can export it out and save it as a JSON file, and I could share it, and someone else could import it in. So that would be a way of sharing. So now that we've gone over some of those basics, let's go ahead and get a report running here. So what we do is switch over to the device view, and here's where you'd select one or more devices. And it's also very handy that you have filtering and sorting. So let's just say I wanted to search for Cisco. I just type Cisco, and all the relative Cisco devices are here. So as you're looking at, how do I select my set of devices, this is where the grid functionality is going to come very handy. Again, you can just type in here or delete this. You can use regex. You can apply a filter and look for something very specific. So all of those things, again, covered in other tutorials, but I did want to use this example where I will filter on Cisco, and I'm going to use this 3650 as a real hardware device, and I'm going to say run a report, and the report is going to be the Cisco Extended Inventory Device List, and hit run. It runs quickly because we're not interrogating the device again. It is pulling from the database. So that's one key benefit here, is that you're not having to requery the network all the time. If you want to refresh the data, you can go to any of the apps like Device Manager or Drift and Audit. Anything that's essentially touching the device will update all of the fields. But basically, when you pull it from the report, you are pulling it from the database of the last stored data. So this report isn't super exciting because it's a one-liner. However, if I look across here, look at all the information collected, serial number and SKU. And as I scroll over here, information about operational state, like high availability, and if it's disruptive, if it's licensed, and getting into end of life, end of sale is included. P-certs, this one has no criticals, which is good. As I scroll over, you have the SKUs for the power supplies and even component level information. So this type of detail is very, very useful when you are trying to inventory your network and find out exactly what's there in a lot of detail.